yesteryear, on the 4th of Tammuz, marks the Hilula of very famous Rabbi Eliezer Don Yihieh, Zechet Tzadik Libracha. He would actually go on to become the rabbi of the famous Rav Kook, who would become a chief Ashkenazic rabbi of Israel. Now it's interesting, Rabbi Don Yihieh had a lot of, let's say, heritage from the Latvian countries and Lithuanian countries. He was a very prominent rabbi over there, but he originated actually from Sephard, from Spain originally. So he was, I believe, of Sephardic descent and was very, very well connected from the family tree, as you see, with many, many great important rabbis who go on to become the rabbi of the city of Lוצין. He'll be in Latvia, respectively, and obviously, naturally, the rabbi of Rav Kook, and will be part of this Mishpachat Don-Yihyeh rabbinic dynasty, which really was a great family, especially in his era in Latvia. Let's explore a few of the highlights of the famous rabbi's life. Now, he was born in Drissa, I believe. This happens to be a town in the region of Belarus, and his father was Rav Shabtai Don Yihieh, who happened to be the rabbi of the city, and his mother's name was Rabbanit Malka. She happened to be the daughter of another famous rabbi of that point in time. I think her father happened to have been a great rabbi, I believe, and just to confirm, I think his name was Rabbi Naftali Tzioni Lutsin, respectively, and I think the family themselves, as we stated on onset, actually did descend from Sfard, from Spain, and very, very great. If I'm not mistaken, the family itself traces them back somehow to Rabbi Yitzhak Abarbanel. Now we're talking about Rav Abarbanel various occasions before, or Rav Don Yitzhak Abarbanel, for the great rabbis of this time, a great philosopher, and very much part of that specific era, especially at the time of the Spanish, let's say, golden age and the let's just say the expulsion time period. He would learn along the auspices of other great rabbis, including, I think, a relative of his, Rabbi Aaron Zelik Tzioni, who happened to be, I think, the rabbi of Lutsin at that point in time. And he would get a daughter. He would get married, I believe, to the daughter, or maybe to his daughter, if I'm not mistaken, in the year Hey Tafresh Yud Tet. That was around 1858 or something like that, with about 20 years later at that point in time. And come what the year, Hey Tafresh Chaf Daled, this would be in early 1860s, 1863-ish, around that period, he would be appointed the rabbi of that area, I think, of Kovna, if I'm not mistaken, or Vayin, part of Kovna, which was a very prominent position. This was. He would fill this place, Lutsin, I think, and that was a position he would go on to hold for many, many years. This was very prominent and with huge responsibility. And Kovna was a great place. It was a bastion of Torah learning over there. I think Kovna, he would be, let's just say, he would open the Beit Midrash for Dayanut, for training, for inspecting, let's just say, and for rabbinic educators. So it was a brilliant place for teaching Torah and law, very much so. Now, I believe it happened to have been that after the passing of Rabbi Tzioni, this was in the year Hey Tafresh Lamed Zayin, he would now be appointed in his place as a rabbi of the entire congregation of Lutsin. Very prominent position, which would take on for staggering 50 years. Now, various importance, as we can see, within regards to him. Here, Rabbi Eliezer was also provide various different haskamot to books, approvals to books, especially among many of the great Ashkenazi rabbis of his generation, such as Rabbi Chaim Ozer Grodzinski, another rabbi, a very famous Lithuanian rabbi, let's just say at that point in time, and very much would influence, let's say, Lithuanian Haredi Judaism. Another rabbi who would give haskamot to in the books is Rabbi Yosef Rozin, who happened to be one of the great Hasidic rabbis of Dvinsk, I believe, an author, especially of the Safnet Pa'an book, respectively. Also, he was known as the Rocket Jobber, if I'm not mistaken. Let's explore his family tree a little bit also. He had a son, Rav Benzion Don Yihieh, who would, I think, later on become the rabbi of Lutsin afterwards. And then his son-in-law, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Nichmakin, he would become the rabbi of Rozinovsek. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And his daughter, Malka, would get married to Yisrael Sioni. He would be, I think, a journalist who was very well known, I think, in America. Another one of his daughters would get married to Rav Shmaraya, who was a rabbi of the city of Vizin and I think very much rabbi in Kovna also respectively. So many of them got married, or the family structure would continue either in, like, say, the Zionistic field, or especially inside the rabbinic field in the rabbinate itself. Now it's reported over he would have a grandson. Among his grandchildren was a man with the name Shabtai Don-Yiheh, who was a famous journalist of his time. He would actually move to Eretz, the land of Israel, I think, and work various different parts. If I'm not mistaken, he would have, at a short time period, he would have been inside the Knesset, if I'm not mistaken. And I think maybe in connection with the Dati Leumi party of that point in time. So that is also very interesting. He had a huge affection to the land of Israel, and one of the main goals and ambitions was the construction of Eretz Israel, especially in his life. He influenced many of his family and fellow citizens to emigrate to the land of Israel and settle there permanently. I believe it's reported over when the Balfour Declaration was published, he called a holiday gathering in the synagogue, gave a halachic lesson on, let's say, what was dependent on the mitzvot of the land. I think later on he would publish various different journals, different, let's say, importances in Latvia with regards to the importance of Aliyat Eretz Israel, the mitzvot, which are connected to the land of Israel. And he would very much publicize this and was very, very passionate within regards to this. And he hoped, obviously, people would increase contributions to the land of Israel. And he will explain, I think, in his letters, the halachic spiritual basis of settling the land of Israel, and the importances. He would praise the land of Israel, and I think he was very much, you could say, aligned to the religious Zionist movement also. Have various conversations with members of his community with regards to it. Now, it's actually interesting. After he passed away, various different Latvian Zionists would inscribe his name in a golden book of the Israel National Foundation as a sign of admiration. This was very interestingly enough, I think this is called the Sefer Zahav Shel HaKeren HaKemet L'Israel. Now, that's interesting. Keren Kemet Israel is a big organization in Israel, which we talk about very much nowadays, and does a huge amount in regards to, especially, developing different parts of the land of Israel. Now, he wrote different Torah colossal works, including the Even Shtiyah. This was printed in Vilna, I think, in Taf Reish Nun Gimel. It was Sefer, it was a shut, question and answers book, Shelot Shuvot, on the four parts of Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, respectively. And very, very much a great book in of itself, concentrating on the let's just say the pilpul of the Achronim, the Rishonim. And it's actually interesting. I think Rabbi Yitzchak Elchanan Spector will give some form of a haskama to this book and will praise it, I believe. He happened himself to have been a famous rabbi of his time. Rav Spector was a rabbi who he would really praise him and distinguish him as a gaon, let's just say, elevating the book with regards to sharpness and the proficientness within regards to it. Now, there was great other Torah book also, which I believe will get printed, called the Ta'am Megadim. This would come out through the Pre-Megadim of the Code of Jewish Law, various different teachings in regards to it. There's more good books, I think. There was a shut of the Marsha Don-Yaheh, questions and answers, connected very much to Even Shtiyah. There was various different drashot with regards to laws of different Jewish laws. Halakha, I think, pertaining to Shabbat HaGadol and Shabbat Shuvah. HaGadol is a Shabbat before Pesach, and Shabbat Shuvah naturally is a Shabbat before Yom Kippur. Now, it's actually interesting. Among his Talmidim included his son, Rab Ben Sion, another relative, Rabbi Yehuda Leib Don Yihieh, the author of the Shelot Shuvot book, the Bechorei Yehuda, would be his Talmid. Rabbi Yitzchak HaKohen Kook, another famous rabbi, one of the Rishon LeZion, the chief rabbi of the Ashkenazic Jewish community over there, would learn. He would actually educate him and really would make a big imprint on his life. Rabbi we've spoken about on various occasions before, and very much will recount over the greatness of how they learned together afterwards. So he was a great rabbi of his time. Just to add on a few more things, he was born, I believe, in 1838, and he passed away in 1926. A great rabbi did. He was of his time. He was, as I say, very much connected to the Zionistic movement. He wrote letters. He wrote booklets in his life. He had a connection with many of the next generations. He would really inspire. Just to explore like one or two teachings also from his book. I think that's important. I'm just now looking at the Hayomi website, which we use quite a bit in this series. I think it's featured very much in pages 85, 86 in the book. And I think this was printed in 1926, I think, in Jerusalem. Another one more tidbit from his book. Very interesting enough. That was, I think, in page number 29. I think it was printed through Zeb Wolf, if I'm not mistaken, of Luzin in the 1834. And very interesting. So please don't forget to like,